Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining on this lovely cold night. We are going to go over the New Jersey Student Climate Challenge, and this is particularly for teacher information session to answer any of your questions and to do an overview of the overall program and to answer any questions that you may have. So I am Rosalie Morillo. I am a program manager here at Sustainable Jersey. My focus is on content, school content, and special projects. And with me, I have.
Renee Hayter, I'm the Deputy Director of Sustainable Jersey. And for those of you who don't know, Sustainable Jersey is a certification program for both municipalities and schools to be more sustainable. We're managed out of the College of New Jersey. So Rosalie and I are College of New Jersey employees, but Sustainable Jersey itself is a nonprofit.
Mhm.
And we'll talk a little bit more about the schools program later.
Okay. So just to review the agenda for today's session, first we're going to do an overview of the climate challenge. We will also talk a little bit about Sustainable Jersey and our program. We'll review submission evaluation rubric. We'll go over and highlight the resources available for teachers and for students and any additional questions or ideas that you may have. We also have some examples of past finalists for the climate challenge, so the winners, so that will show you some models and give you a little bit of ideas of things that have been submitted in the past. So the climate challenge, it is a free, that's the first thing we want to point out. It is 100% free, and it's mainly for students grades 6 through 12. So middle school and high school students are the only students that are able to participate in this project. Sorry. While students are participating in this project, teachers must register their class or club in order to participate. It's through the teacher's mentorship and guidance, but one thing to really point out is that this project is student-led, only facilitated by teachers, and you can help give them ideas and guide them through their process, but it needs to be led by the students. So teams from 2 to 12 can range from either 2 to 12. So an individual person shouldn't submit a project on their own. And it can be a school or community project that addresses a cause or impact of climate change. So also it can be a school and community project. It doesn't have to be one or the other. So each team needs to create a digital story about the project, and the submission date for that is on April 10th. So you have a lot of time. Things go very quickly, so so you can start planning as soon as possible. But the digital story is to really just give us an overview and walk us through the journey of your project. So that is what gets submitted to us. So first, second, third place, middle school and high school winners are recognized at an awards ceremony hosted by the First Lady Tammy Murphy. One thing I wanted to also point out is that the middle school and the high school submissions are separate, right? So they're not all in one group, meaning that high school students are not competing against middle school students. There are separate categories in that. And then school winners will receive grants to advance their climate education initiatives that range from $3,500 to $500, depending on, where they place. Any questions so far? All right, go ahead.
Just real quick, is the 12 students a hard, fast number? My AP class is 16. Would I have to divide them into two teams of 8?
16 is kind of big for a project. I mean,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, it
So
might
it
be
would
good
be
to
good
have
for
them
them
in
to,
several different groups
yeah.
and maybe coming up with different ideas and different types of initiatives and, maybe making it within a competition within your own classroom.
Okay. I don't have to register twice? I just
No,
okay.
no. They just have to submit, each team would submit
Yeah.
separately. There's a submission form online, an online
Okay.
Google form.
Yeah, I already looked around at that thing.
Oh, good. Good.
All right. So let's talk about why are we doing this challenge. So the challenge is really important because we're talking about climate change and everybody hears about this all the time. But And then we have the climate education standards. So we're even hearing about it even more. So education is the most powerful tool. As educators, we know this, right? It's a critical force in preparing the generation for all things, especially climate change. So, and project-based learning is also the way we engage our students in a more meaningful way, right? In their learning process, it's more meaningful and authentic in what they're doing. So in the process of them actually doing this project, they're doing the best part of they're learning the most. So solution-based approach to this project is also really important because as we talk more about climate change, climate anxiety is on the rise with students. They hear about it so much and the doom and gloom, and in response, they're just getting anxious about it. So providing a solution-based approach will really help students in like combating this emotional anxiety, like this climate anxiety. And then this is also very helpful when connecting to any unit of studies that you guys are teaching in your classrooms. And it also will align to the climate change education standards that were just implemented.
But just to reinforce that teachers have done it as part of their like class assignments, and others have used it for club activities like the environmental club or the gifted and talented program.
Mhm.
So, or even if it's on like a volunteer committee, like a key club or any like extracurricular club that is working in the community, doing volunteer related work would be great.
Mhm. All right, so just to review the awards. So this year we have the new ACE Student Climate Challenge Award, which is primarily for ACE territory schools, mainly South Jersey schools, right? All South Jersey schools are eligible for this grant, which is really helpful to provide the higher probability of winning, right? Because since it's going to be split up, the ACE territory schools will be eligible for the ACE student climate grant, and all the other schools in New Jersey will be eligible for the New Jersey Student Climate Challenge Award. Both have the same amount of money, but it just really helps with the chances of winning because it's a smaller pool when it's being divided between the two awards. So eligible projects. So the type of projects that are eligible for submission would be anything that has to do with school or community-based impact connected to climate change, of course, and climate change solutions. But it needs to have a tangible outcome. So anything from a physical change to your environment, the reduction in climate change causing factor, increased awareness of climate change and the need for behavior changes, civic engagement and advocacy, or research and funding proposals. So different things like that. Some students do campaigns for maybe like for food waste and maybe meatless Mondays, things like that, and really trying to make an impact and that those type of projects are tangible because not only are they're not just making posters, but they're really trying to create an outcome like by doing meatless Mondays and trying to reduce, the carbon emissions through, the overeating of meat. And civic engagement, there have been projects where students do climate action projects and present it to the Board of Ed, or they go to the city council and they petition for maybe anti-idling campaign, or like maybe a garden, a rain garden, or things like that for it within the community. So as long as something is tangibly coming out of this project that is connected to climate change and climate change based solutions, then it is an eligible project. Okay, so now I'm gonna have Renee.
And so I should probably have Casca do this. He's the AP environmental science teacher. But so what we're looking for, and this was kind of the biggest challenge in the climate challenge. This is the fourth year that we're doing it, is for students to really hone in on what the connections are to climate change. So we want them to be thinking about what is causing climate change, which is human activity and the increased concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. And on that end, there are a variety of things that schools, students, or projects could address in terms of trying to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in one way or another. Reduce vehicle miles traveled, reduce idling, reduce food waste going into the landfills, and releasing methane into the air. So that's kind of one end of it. And then the other end of it is looking at the negative impacts that climate change has in New Jersey in particular, and what they can do to adapt to that changing environment, whether it's like dealing with planting trees to help with flooding, or developing rain gardens to deal with flooding. There's a variety of things that they can research what the impacts of climate change are in New Jersey, and then kind of brainstorm things that they could do in their school, their community, that could address those impacts. And this is just kind of giving some more examples of like the human activity that are the causes of climate change, and then what are some of the mitigation strategies that can be employed to reduce the concentration, as I mentioned, of greenhouse gases in the air. So it ranges. These are just a small list of examples of things that students can do, but that's kind of where we want them to think, kind of from a solutions-based perspective of what are the causes, how can we address those, how can we mitigate those causes, what are the impacts, and how we can adapt or address those impacts. And then here's again the kind of adaptation, climate change impact strategies. So we talked about severe weather events, increased flooding, droughts and heat waves, temperatures rising and habitats being threatened, sea level rise. So there's all different types of projects that students can undertake to kind of target one of these or the other impacts of climate change that they're witnessing even in their communities. There is a good resource that NJTEP put out in September that kind of summarizes the impacts of climate change in New Jersey. That might be a good resource to share with your students as a way to kind of get the conversation started, because it kind of talks about and gives a lot of information and data about New Jersey and climate change. Has any of you seen that document? There's a link to it in our Google Drive resources. It's worth taking a look at because I think students might be interested in reading it, and it's a good way to kind of frame their thinking on what their climate project could possibly be. Next. And also, we encourage students to reach out and collaborate with other organizations in their community. There's municipal boards and commissions like the Shade Tree Commission and the Environmental Commission and the Green Team. There are also state agencies and nonprofits that are doing a lot of work in this area. And New Jersey has a wide range of nonprofits that they can reach out to for guidance on how to do things or get ideas for projects. A lot of them have a lot of resources on their websites, like how to build a rain garden, like how to implement a food waste, resources for doing a food waste, reducing food waste campaign in the school. So there are a lot of resources out there that they can connect with. Many of the previous participants did connect with like their environmental commission or their green team or their shade tree commission to get ideas and resources. But there's a wealth of resources out there on the internet that are addressing climate change and climate solutions and guidebooks that the students would find helpful. Do you want to? Okay. And then I mentioned Sustainable Jersey for Schools at the beginning. Sustainable Jersey for Schools is a certification program, and basically we have identified a whole list of what we call actions that schools can do to be more sustainable. Not every one of them directly relates to climate change, but a lot do. And we just increased, for example, we just increased the number of actions we had in the food waste area. So students that are interested in food waste can take a look at these actions and see if they could use the resources, or they're actually interested in like implementing one of these actions in their schools. If you're participating in Sustainable Jersey, then their work could count towards the school getting certified. Next slide. And
So let's talk a little bit about like, the digital stories that there are the videos that are going to be submitted. So when thinking about the digital story, we talked about how we want to see the overall project, but what's going to make your digital story stand out? So from other videos is like making sure that you're connecting on an emotional level with your audience and the people and the events and the stories, and hoping that your communication of your project is being received in the way that you want it to be received. So what your story is meaning, what you're trying to sell within your story is what your audience is receiving, and just making sure that the stories are collaborative and the efforts of like the people that are involved and the point of views that are being presented. So this is how we assess the project. Here's a nice little rubric that was put together. All the teachers understand completely what these look like, right? So I'm just gonna go over, the highest tier because what we're looking for, because I'm guessing most people are looking to get into the highest tier. So we have it separated between what the video components, what we look for in the video, and then there is a written component that is attached to this project, which kind of talks about the rationale and just the reflections of the students. So within the creative elements, we're looking for anything that's engaging, that's creative, and that's effectively presenting the purpose of the project through the video. So if there's some kind of questions and I'm like, I don't really understand what they're trying to do, or like the way they presented it is not exactly clear, that would affect that area. So the core science ideas is the area where we see the relationship between human impact and climate change. The cause and the effect are accurately described and supported by evidence, right? So evidence is super important, right? And making sure that the clear connection is presented within the video. And then the project solutions, are they innovative? Are they practical and easily implemented solutions? So when in terms of rationale, we're looking for in the written component, any details of the summary. We want overall summary of the project, and in writing form, explaining the connection to climate change using scientific evidence. So here you'll show it within the video, but you have a chance to also have your students write up what they understand the connection is. And then team reflections. I think this is a really good reflection of your projects are always really good for your students because they can think a little deeper about what they did, point out any obstacles that they faced, how they tackled them, and then any examples of what they probably would have done differently. And this can also encourage them for maybe what they might want to do the next year, and it creates like this kind of desire to keep this project going. Do you have any questions on the rubric? Great. So let's look at some examples. So here we have a middle school example, and so the carbon catchers won second place last year, and then we'll look at Princeton High School, which won first place in the high school, I guess division, I guess we can say. All right, so let me change my screen. It's here, but I'm going to switch it to carbon catchers. Okay. Let me just make sure again that we have, see, sure. So, okay. We all see the video?
Mhm.
And do we see ourselves as well? No. Okay. I just want to make sure that we don't see ourselves. All right.
And I'm Max.
And we're the carbon catchers. Hi, I'm Joey, one of the students at Howell Middle School South wanting to make a difference. After noticing an issue with climate change, we knew a change was due.
If temperatures keep rising the way they are, the oceans will rise 18 to 48 inches in the next century. While that isn't going to be in our time period, we want to do as much as we can to make a change for our future people.
Tree planting is one of the simplest and most effective ways of tackling climate change caused by greenhouse gas. As trees grow, they absorb carbon dioxide, a major greenhouse gas in the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide enters the atmosphere through burning fossil fuels such as coal, natural gas, and oil. We have to use these trees to remove the toxic carbon dioxide being released into the air.
This is a big problem.
But it can be solved through planting trees.
Certain health conditions are triggered by a lack of oxygen. If climate change grows at the same rate it does now, these health problems, heart and lung problems, and even death could be a common issue.
This is why we are planting trees for our school. If us students start making a change now, the future will be brighter for everyone. To find out what kind of trees we could plant at our school, we tested our soil to see what types of trees could thrive.
I found out that our soil was acidic and sandy by doing tests on it. These conditions we need a hardy tree to be able to thrive in, but not something invasive. We also needed a tree that was good for the environment and found a perfect match.
Oak trees. Oak trees are hardy and strong and can live for many years under harsh environments. They need acidic soil to thrive and can live in sandy soil as well. Oak trees can also sequester huge amounts of CO2 when they grow to be larger trees.
All of this information led us to believe that oak trees were a perfect match from our school, and a generous donation from the Shade Tree Commission made our work possible.
We received a generous donation from the Shade Tree Commission of 50 trees.
We were given 15 willow oak trees, 15 pin oak trees, and 20 blackjack oak trees.
That's $735 worth of trees.
Without the help of the Shade Tree Commission, we wouldn't have been able to achieve our goal of helping our atmosphere.
Wait, how do you know we need more trees?
In the past few years, pollution has been at a high. Despite trying to clean our air for decades, more than 40% of Americans are living in places affected by air pollution. Cutting down on gas use helps with air pollution, but we still have another way to help: planting trees.
Trees catch and store harmful CO2 as they grow and release oxygen into the air. They also help our wildlife because deer, birds, squirrels, and most of all forest animals feed off of and benefit from trees.
Trees are a solution to our problem of air pollution and help the wildlife. They really are eco-heroes. But how do you know the trees can store CO2?
We noticed the mass amounts of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere, so we used this carbon sequestration to clear this out of the air to further help our air quality and our atmosphere.
Using a tree calculator, we calculate the amount of carbon that is being stored from these trees over the course of 10 years, 20 years, and 50 years.
Over the next 10 years, one tree will store 0.10 pounds of carbon each year.
Over the course of 20 years, one tree will store 0.70 pounds of carbon each year.
And for 50 years, one tree will store 13 pounds of carbon each year.
Now imagine 50 trees all storing these amounts of carbon.
That means over the next 50 years, our trees will store 650 pounds of carbon.
Our goal as the carbon catchers is to create a healthier environment.
While we know we can't quite change the world just by planting trees, we hope we can have a lasting effect on our community and our environment.
After noticing an issue with greenhouse gases, we had to take initiative.
Planting trees seemed to be the most suitable solution for students our age, so we knew this was necessary to help the New Jersey environment.
So that wasn't the most creative video that we received, but they made the clear connection to climate change. So it's the sweet spot between like a creative video and correct information in terms of the connection to climate change. Any questions on that?
I'm here talking and I realized I was mute.
Mhm.
I was saying that we had the teacher actually speak at one of our sessions, and she talked about how like for this particular group, there was such a journey, a big growth and journey for them, because originally their original project was to take selfies with trees, which didn't have an outcome that they were looking for. So they, in their process, they kept on like pitching new ideas, and it took them a while until they fell into this. And this was a really great project, and experience for the kids, because she also mentioned that when they were asking for trees from the Shade Tree Commission, they had to pitch their project to them, like in a way, in a professional way. So really just teaching kids not only to come up with these projects, but to advocate for the cause that they care about. And that I thought was really a great learning experience for the students. So our next video is from Princeton High School, and they were first place winners from last year.
Oh yeah. Ready?
Yep.
Food waste is the major source of greenhouse gases that more people need to talk about. When leftovers and spoiled produce are buried in landfills, they produce methane, which is 30 times more powerful than carbon dioxide warming the planet. If food waste were a country, it would be the third largest emitter, right behind China and the United States.
Here at Princeton High School, we are turning this trash into treasure. Used coffee grounds, spoiled fruits and vegetables, and uneaten food are fed to hungry black soldier fly larvae, which are known as the world's greatest recyclers. They will break down just about any organic material and use it to build their bodies, which are high in protein and healthy fats.
These fats are very similar to palm oil, which is used in many different products, from foods to cosmetics. Over the past year, we have turned this box oil into soap that cleans grease better than soap made from palm oil and washes away bacteria just as well. Soap made from box oil may help to reduce our dependence on palm oil, which is another source of global warming. Rainforests are cleared to make room for oil palm plantation.
The eggs that we produce here are given to the local community, which also helps to reduce transportation costs. It also saves money because eggs are expensive. One other benefit from this way to feed our chickens is that farmland that would otherwise be dedicated to providing animal feed can be used to grow crops or be rehabilitated into natural areas.
The third part of our project focuses on frass, which is the waste that black soldier fly larvae generate. Yes, it is poop, but the larvae have ways to clear it of dangerous bacteria. In fact, black soldier fly frass does not have any of the strong smells that we can detect in the rotting food that they eat, and it therefore seems to be quite a bit cleaner than compost. This is even true when the black soldier flies are fed yogurt, cheese, and other dairy products, as well as meat that cannot be broken down safely in any other way.
Now, even though the frass contains whatever it is that the black soldier fly larvae didn't want, it still contains a lot of carbon. The frass also contains lots of nutrients and a polymer called chitin, which helps plants become more resistant to fungal disease. When the frass is mixed into the soil, it helps keep carbon out of the atmosphere and provides plants with phosphorus, nitrogen, potassium, and calcium, and improves the soil quality so we can have bigger and better harvests in our garden. As the spring is getting started, we are looking forward to the harvest that our project will provide, while also reducing our carbon footprint.
Let's hear it for black soldier flies!
So that was our first place winner last year. Pretty remarkable, I would say. I was very impressed by the entire that they came up with. But don't let that discourage you in thinking that your students aren't capable of such amazing things, because we'll be surprised. Most of the time, you'll be surprised of the products that your students can come up with. But also, we do understand that not everybody has the same resources, and we're looking also for how well the project is being initiated, the clear connections to climate change, and just the creativity overall.
And that project was probably not, they just didn't come up with it for the climate challenge. That was part of their club's activity. But you don't have to come up with a totally new project for the climate challenge if you're already doing a project. It just has to be a project that was done in this school year.
Mhm. So last time we had the teacher from Princeton High School speak a little bit about his experiences. He said he was going to jump on, but it doesn't seem like he's available. If he comes on a little bit later, we'll have some time to, talk to him. But one of the things that he really pointed out was how this project really helped to unify the students within his classroom and really just expand on their desire to continue to work on climate change initiatives. So with the money that they received from the grant, now they're installing solar panels in their school, which, and then the students are leaning and they're already starting to work on their project for this year as well for the climate challenge. So it really just set off a chain reaction for the students. Do you have any questions as we move on?
You can, on the Climate Challenge website, you can also view all the finalists from the previous 3 years if you're interested. As you'll see, the quality varies from, from grade level and also just in the project themselves and how sophisticated they were.
Okay.
Yeah, watching those answered a lot of the questions that I had in advance. So, yeah.
Great.
Oh, good. So what did you take away? Like, what did you see the answers to be? What answers were you looking for?
My questions were more about like the video itself. I don't do anything in terms of editing videos. I don't know how, but I had these ideas of like fast forwarding through like the actual work of the project, which is what I saw in both of them. So showing what's done, but not taking the forever, the time length, the Princeton was only 3.5 minutes. So
Yeah, that's what we're looking for, like
yeah,
in the
so that
3-minute range.
mine was really the mechanics of the video were all my questions. The science stuff I think we'll handle fine. I just got to figure out, or they got to figure out. We have a TV editing class in our school, so
Right.
some of them are in that, some of them have friends in that, so we're just gonna have to elicit their help.
Yeah, and the ones that carbon catchers ones, they did it on their cell phones.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I was gonna mention. I think don't underestimate your students' understanding of video editing in the age of TikTok, where they're all on editing their videos. They're kind of like masters with video editing at this point. So you might not need it to even do anything in that area. You'll be surprised of how much they actually already know. And you could also tap into, the video production class and the teacher, maybe pair up with him and see if there's some kind of synergy that could work there.
Yeah, and if you do take a look at some of the other ones, the Hopewell Valley Regional High School one in 2000 and not last year, the year before. And they did a good job of like telling a story with that, but with different shots over the length of the video. So it wasn't just one continuous story. It was kind of the different snippets of this and that transitioned.
Right. With the voiceover, yeah.
Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, in terms of we've been doing this is our 4th year. The biggest thing that we want to reinforce with the students is really focusing on what the connection is to climate change. We had, submissions in the past where they did like a litter campaign, which was great, but they focused on how picking up litter makes their community look nicer, but not making the connection with climate change. And also even clarifying what their project was. We had a video submitted where they did they were talking about anti-idling, but they never really said what they did. They showed students talking about anti-idling, but not really what they did. And it turned out that after we talked to the teacher, that they didn't win, but we talked to the teacher for a debrief because we can give debriefs afterwards to just give them feedback from the review committee was that, the teacher's like, oh, they did a PSA and they did, announcements on the loudspeaker, and students really, started, they saw a decrease in the idling, in the high school students idling in the parking lot, but that was never explained in the video or never explained in the written component of it. So really, clearly communicating what the project was and how it was linked to climate change is important. And then also making sure that it's a specific project. We had like 8 submissions that they did PSAs, but they recorded a PSA, but they never implemented a campaign around the public service announcement about climate change. So clarifying, what the project was and how it connects is really important. And then really, the review committee is moved by, student reflections on climate change and what it means to them, and how they connect with the issue. Like if it's flooding, like, in the past, students said, our community was flooded during Hurricane Sandy, and kind of making some kind of personal connection in the video also is great, because they kind of personalize what they're doing, and it reflects their passion for the project. Next.
So we also came up with a bunch of different resources to help guide you in your process, and of introducing it to your students, as well as, thinking about ways to integrate it into your classroom. So I'm going to share my screen of what the resources look like. One second. Here we go. So the Google Drive is also, you can access it on the main climate change challenge website. So it is divided into 3 different folders. So in this folder, you'll find all the submission requirements and all your submission requirements and forms. So you have your student consent form release. So we need every student to fill this out because we do post it on our website. So just to ensure that we have the legal rights to post these videos and pictures of your students. So every student needs to provide this. Next, we have the rubric. So the same rubric that I show you, you have it here, and we also connected it to the standards that are being met through this project. So administrators would really like that. You could show that to them, and supervisors. Then we have the quick start guide. So this is something that's really good to give to your students, or you could post it in your Google Classroom and talk about it. Here you'll have the link of the additional resources to click, the link to where to register, the scoring rubric, the official rules, the Google submission form, the team roster template. So you have to provide the names of all the students that are participating, and as well as the student consent forms. So it talks a little bit more about what an action project is. So it's something you can review with your students, what it's not. So like picking up litter along the stream. Again, the resources direct and how they're divided. And then any contact if you wanted to call and ask any more questions about the challenge while you're in your process. And then we have the official rules. So this is something that we went over earlier, of like what the rules are, talking about the awards, everything like that. Okay, so that's within that folder. So in the second folder, there's a bunch of different graphic organizers for the teachers. All right, so this is a great way to get your students to start thinking about it. So maybe they come up with 3 different problems that's connected to climate change, and they come up with the options that that they can use to combat climate change, and then the solutions that will come out of it. So there's so many different types of graphic organizers you can use. We also have here we have links to different lessons and climate change education resources. So maybe you want to build that. What? Did I freeze?
Yeah, you froze up. Now you're back though.
Okay, sorry. So here we have climate change education resources. So this might be a great way to build background knowledge on climate change before you introduce the project. So if you go to the Climate Education Hub, here we have access to exemplar lesson plans and things like that you can look over.
And other
using
resources like videos, or there's like a student action guide in there too. It's very searchable database that students or yourselves can use for resources.
Mhm. We also have resources to support action project planning. So these are different organizations and nonprofits that can help pair up with your students in all over New Jersey for any of the projects that they have. Like like this other students at the Shade Tree Commission, there's a lot of nonprofit organizations that are local that can help. And I'm going to point out this great graphic organizer, which has all of our Sustainable Jersey actions that can be turned into projects. So I made it a graphic organizer. So we have the action of the carbon footprint, which if you clicked on here, it will send you straight to our website and the action. And then just it gives a description of the goal of each of the actions and then the possible projects, right? What are the possible projects? How can the projects, well, what comes to mind, or like how they can get started from it in school gardens. So they have all these things here. And then we have digital storytelling. So again, we have graphic organizers for you to present to your students when thinking about starting their digital story making, right? Brainstorming is very, very important. Writing a script, creating a storyboard, filming, all of that. So there's a lot of different resources here. Again, we have, and this is for you. There's a lot of YouTube videos, right, that tells you about what digital storytelling is and
how to make a shot list. There's a bunch of, she's frozen up again too, sorry. So these are just guides and videos. There's some links to how to do video editing, free video editing tools. So if your students are kind of interested in researching or learning more about what digital storytelling is and how to do it, these are good guides for them.
well, I guess my internet keeps messing up,
Yeah,
huh?
you keep on freezing. Yep.
Oh no. And there's no one else in my house either to kind of use the internet, so I don't know who's hogging my internet, my Wi-Fi. And then we have the examples of the finalists here. And one last thing I wanted to point out is the graphic organizer here. Am I frozen again?
No, you're good.
Okay, I was just because this is not moving now. So I thought, okay, now things are getting wacky. Let's do this again. Okay, so this is not moving for me, but I do have something in here that kind of tells you how to do the shot list and things like that, but for some reason this won't move. So I'm just gonna move on. I think that's my sign to move on. Let's move back to the PowerPoint. Okay. All right, so back to the PowerPoint. So this is briefly what we talked about for a second. This was the New Jersey Climate Education Hub I was mentioning before. We have the teaching resources, exemplar lesson plans, professional development. If you're a teacher that's not super comfortable about climate change and teaching it yet, there is a whole course that's for free that gives you like step 1, what is climate change? Step 2, how to implement it into the classroom and so on. And Renee, do you want to talk about the grants?
Just we're going to wrap up and take any questions, but before we go, I just wanted to let you all know that Sustainable Jersey does have an open grants program. So you're not going to be able to get the funding in time to do any of the projects this year, but students, an eligible project would be for students to kind of research and design a grant that they would like to apply for and apply for it. Because that would involve them doing the research, doing a budget, getting approval from the Board of Education to submit a grant proposal. And even if you're not, it has nothing to do with the climate challenge. If your schools are interested in doing sustainability initiatives, and you're participating in Sustainable Jersey, then you're eligible to apply for a $10,000 or a $2,000 grant to support sustainability projects in your school.
Awesome. So if you are not registered yet and you think this is right up your alley and this is a great experience for your students, please just register today. Again, it's no cost, no real obligations, meaning if you register today doesn't mean that we're gonna knock on your door and say like, hey, we haven't gotten your video yet. That's not gonna happen. So it doesn't cost anything to register, at least to get you started. All right,
And
and go
and
ahead.
we'll be sending all the registered teachers like updates on the climate challenge and reminders, things like that.
So right here is the QR code and it'll send you straight to the website to be able to register. So are there any questions?
Why don't you turn off the slides and then maybe we could talk to each other for a little bit if anybody has any questions.
Okay.
Oh, Mark made it.
Mark, do you want to talk a little bit about what the project was like
Yeah,
and
I'm
the
sorry.
benefits it was for your students?
I had so many
It's
complete
okay.
that just came today. So I
No
apologize for that.
worries.
My
We
lighting's
mentioned
not
that you would
my
probably
lighting's
show
not
up.
great. Right. Um, I mean, it's an opportunity to take a challenge and really make it something that students can feel empowered to accomplish. I did it this past year, first time we did it. But what I saw, I mean, a lot of climate education is the doom and gloom, the like I always say, like, the polar bear on like the little tiny piece of ice. And it's like that makes it very hopeless. But when students find ways of taking an initiative there and really, I mean, they can make a difference. All of any real action is going to have to happen at the grassroots level. And I think my students understand that. We just had actually an all-day video about like how we've continued with our projects in remediating food waste and then turning bug oil into soap, which was the other aspect of our project. But I mean, it's not only a way of reaching not necessarily the most um enthusiastic learners. Like I have a lot of reluctant learners who are very much involved in this activity because it was something where actually they could see themselves potentially building skills that could translate into making money, making a business, making a career out of it. I've had students who say like this is this kind of stuff they want to do and they never thought of it before. I mean, I'm in Princeton, and people think the university and a lot of wealth, which there is, but there is also quite a sizable low wage community in town, largely Spanish speaking, and they at my school tend to be the most marginalized of the students. And since I speak Spanish and since I work with those students, I was able to bring them in and engage them in ways that they had not previously been able to interact and feel welcome as part of the community and show the many skills that they have. And this was something that particularly with like the designs of like engineering, how we were going to keep these bugs and keep them trapped, and keep them enclosed. And then some of the designs failed and we had bugs, flying around the building. It's not, as I say, it's not necessarily something for a non-tenured teacher to be able to get away with. But the fact that it was something very engaging, very motivating for students to actually learn as much as they could. And again, this is a project now that's still continuing this year. It's just getting bigger. And I mean, we have standards that we have to meet, but there's always creative ways of integrating those standards into these sorts of ideas. And climate change is one of those big things that, thankfully, state of New Jersey, not all states, unfortunately, but thankfully, state of New Jersey really wants students understanding and finding ways of engaging. I mean, our project had to do with insects, and then you get to talk about biodiversity, you get to talk about the soaps, we get to talk about chemistry. So we could integrate all sorts of different thematic units and curriculum strands within our project, and that way we were actually able to keep the learning going. But we also had to find time within class and outside of class to actually get this stuff done, and it did take us outside, which I think all kids need some opportunities to be outside way more than they are nowadays, especially at the high school level. They're just trapped in these, cinder block, prison like dungeon like places a lot. I don't know. I mean, that's Princeton High School, at least. It's not the most aesthetically pleasing place in the world. So getting them out and engaged and digging in the dirt and just doing the things that young people should be doing but just don't do anymore is really another fundamentally important part of anything related to climate solutions, because we need the dirt, we need the trees, we need the bugs, we need all these things working together. And that's really, students need a lot more exposure to that stuff nowadays, I think, because they don't. I was a kid who was, I would leave the house at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then my parents would just, if I showed up after dark, that was okay as long as I showed up, and that was the thing. I was in the woods all day, and kids aren't doing that anymore. So they need, the schools are an opportunity where they can engage and have those opportunities which they wouldn't otherwise have anymore. Just
and just to reiterate one thing you said, Mark, in previous years too, we had teachers that used it to engage kind of students that were struggling in a traditional classroom. And her testimony was that she never saw her students so engaged in learning. They did like a big pollinator garden in their courtyard, and they installed a aquaponics system. And so they had actually gotten a couple grants from Sustainable Jersey along the way because they're participating in the program, but really engaging all different sorts of students in it. We're doing the hands-on component of it.
Yeah, and I mean, that's where I'm fortunate that my district allows us a lot of freedom. But I mean, really, a lot of these projects got started initially because I guess it was the winter of 2021, 2022, I had a large group of students arrive from Central America. And as the winter dragged on, and New Jersey winters are miserable, they're cold, they're gray. I could see it wearing on the students. And then I finally, I had this access to this very small greenhouse at our school. And I was like, do you want to just start growing stuff? And all of a sudden they got all excited. And sorry, I'm about to sneeze, but we tore up this whole this whole courtyard that was just grass. Nothing else was there. We tore it up. We put a garden in there, we put flowers in there, we put chickens in there, which we're still kind of getting in trouble with, but we're not. I just had a grounds supervisor say he needed to talk to me about the chicken still. But it's stuff that the students found engaging, and they keep with it. And that's also stuff that they've had familiarity with in the past, so they get to show off their skills in a lot of cases. Excuse me. I had a student, he actually unfortunately dropped out, but he had been working on a tomato farm for 4 years. His name was Luis. And we started, planting tomatoes. Like, oh, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're doing. You need to do it this way. You need this. I was like, well, how do you know this? He goes, well, I worked on the tomato farm for 4 years. I go, all right, Luis, you're teaching us how to grow tomatoes. And it's like those sorts of opportunities, those skills that the students bring that aren't always recognized as something that an opportunity like this actually gives them a chance to do. And I mean, I really think all students have tremendous capabilities if you find the right environment for them to function and succeed. And unfortunately, a lot of education doesn't really build on those strengths in a lot of cases, but this does.
Yes. Thank
you, Mark. That was great. Does anybody have any questions for Mark, or any other questions about the climate challenge that we could answer for you?
All right, I think
I was to say I'm good. Yeah, I think you answered a lot of them as I went. So
great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Great. Well, we look forward to seeing projects from all your students in April.
For sure. And if anybody needs any assistance or help, we're always available, and just email us anytime, or even just give us a call. All right.
Great. And our contact information is on the Sustainable Jersey for Schools website, and it's on the slide deck that we'll be sending out to everybody. And we'll also be posting a link of the video on the Climate Challenge website. So we'll be getting that out to you in the next day or so.
And thank you all for joining.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time, and please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have any questions.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
night.
Thank you.
Okay.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye.